What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Fast. Today, let's get started with Aljamain Sterling believes he has the formula to beat Ilia Topuria. One man who may emerge as an eventual challenger for Ilia Topuria's throne is former bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling. The wrestling expert moved up in weight after losing his belt to Sean O'Malley and reckons his game plan would neutralize the impressive striking of the champion. After winning his debut at the weight against Calvin Kattar at UFC 300, Sterling has landed a spot at number 9 in the rankings. If I were to fight him, God willing, I beat Mavsar, I do think I have a great style to neutralize his offense. Bro, most of these guys are striking with him. I ain't doing that, bro. I ain't doing that. We're sitting there looking for a takedown. I have to make it a grappling match. I'm not trying to get my brain and my head sent to the next dimension again. I'm cool on that. Chuck Liddell makes bold claim about hypothetical fight against Jon Jones. Chuck Liddell recently weighed in on how he believes he would match up against Jon Jones and claimed that he would be a difficult opponent for Jones. He explained where he would have advantages and how he could get his hand raised. The Iceman was undoubtedly one of the top fighters in the world during his prime and achieved a great deal of success in the UFC. Even though Jones fought many MMA legends, Liddell was on the downside of his career when he began surging the rankings, and so a bout never came to fruition. Liddell mentioned that he would have given Jones trouble with his takedown defense and forced the bout on the feet, where he believes he would have had an advantage. That's why I always said I would have been a bad matchup for Jones, because I'm probably one of the few guys where he would have a hard time dictating where I fought him. He would have had to fight me standing up. He couldn't out-wrestle me. He wouldn't have been able to take me down. He would have had to strike with me. Magomed Ankalaev sent a message to Alex Pereira. Magomed Ankalaev is confident that Alex Pereira is actively avoiding a showdown, and he's eager to step into the octagon with him. Fresh off a decisive victory over Aleksandar Rakic on the main card of UFC 308, Ankalaev believes he's earned a title shot. His decision win at UFC 308 showcased his skill, positioning him as a top contender. Let's do it, Alex. Stop running away from me. I've heard he wants to fight during Ramadan. We're not fighting in Ramadan, but after Ramadan or before, if he agrees, we'll fight. I think he's being protected. I'm not sure why the UFC is doing it, but it seems they're shielding him. He's an exciting fighter and a strong striker, so maybe they're just trying to save him. Undefeated since 2018, Ankalaev's fighting style has drawn some criticism, with some detractors labeling it boring. However, he remains a formidable contender in the light heavyweight division, eager for his chance to face Pereira. Alexander Volkanovski voices only regret fighting Ilia Topuria at UFC 298. Alexander Volkanovski says Ilia Topuria wouldn't have knocked him out had he not fought Islam Makhachev 4 months prior. Volkanovski was well aware of the risks that came with fighting at UFC 298. Volkanovski wouldn't last much longer in his title fight against Ilia Topuria, losing his featherweight belt by second-round KO. Sidelined ever since and cage-side for Topuria's unprecedented knockout of Max Holloway, Volkanovski looks back on what transpired in February and if he could have changed any of it. No, I don't think I regret it. That's who I am. That's what's made me the champion I was. A lot of people think it's just a bad idea, but if you look at it going in, that's me challenging myself. Me taking on Islam, obviously. The timing thing was there, but the only thing I regret is I wish I was, especially before the Islam one. I just wish I was more prepared. I wish I was training more and in a better position, but I do not regret taking them fights because, as I said, that's just who I've always been. If I wasn't the guy that would take on them challenges and wouldn't do that, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Former UFC star pleads for Dana White to put aside personal grudge with Francis Ngannou and book Jon Jones fight. A former UFC star recently weighed in on Dana White's recent comments about Francis Ngannou and pleaded for him to put his personal grudge aside. He noted that fans want to see the best fights possible and suggested he book a cross-promotion fight with the Predator and Jon Jones. Darren Till is known for expressing his opinion and has been in his fair share of beefs as a result. He sounded off on the UFC CEO's latest comments about the PFL heavyweight king and suggested that he put business ahead of personal feelings. During his latest appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, the Englishman shared his thoughts on the heavyweight division and expressed interest in seeing the two heavyweight champions collide in a cross-promotion bout. Darren mentioned he likes White personally, but wants to finally see Ngannou and Jones fight because of the significance it would have. As much as I love Dana White, just make the fight with Francis Ngannou and Jones. We don't care that you don't like Francis, or Francis doesn't like you. UFC always been the best because we give the best fights. Let's just watch Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones, and let them all fight. We just want to see the best fights. Paddy Pimblett considers WWE future after UFC career. Once he wraps up his UFC career, Paddy Pimblett sees a future in sports entertainment. The baddie has become one of the UFC's most intriguing stars courtesy of his brash attitude and his ability to back it up, as proven by his spotless record inside the octagon. Paddy has a ways to go before he earns himself a shot at the division's top prize. During a recent interview, Pimblett revealed that he'd love to do something a little more dramatic once his days of strapping on the 4-ounce gloves are over. Yeah, I could end up in the WWE. I used to love wrestling. My favorite wrestler is Shawn Michaels, but I reckon I'm gonna end up in films. I'm gonna be an actor. I've just always thought about it. I always told people I was going to be in the UFC for years. I've always loved films, and I've always watched different TV programs. So I've always said that once my fighting career is over, I'll move over to acting and I'll start doing that. And just by being in the UFC and stuff like that, I'll end up getting a little job, and then I'll show that I can actually act, and I'll have a few more jobs. UFC champion gets inspired by Khamzat Chimaev's UFC 308 win. Khamzat Chimaev's grappling has always been one of the most feared wrestling skill sets that we have seen inside the octagon, but he took it to whole new levels at UFC 308. Fight fans have known for a long time now that any opponent of Chimaev's was going to have to weather a rough storm early on because of his aggressive grappling threat. After Kamaru Usman was able to do that and make the fight competitive at UFC 294 last year, there were some doubts hanging over Chimaev's potential. He was back to his best in Abu Dhabi, and his grappling looked so dominant that it inspired a current UFC champion to keep working harder and learning more. Having given his live reactions via a watch-along, Aspinall was massively impressed by Chimaev's performance, and as someone that tries to take lessons from other fighters, the Brit was certainly able to gain something from this display. What he does for me as a fighter myself, me as an already established champion, I look at him and I feel like I need to learn more with the grappling. I need to learn more with the attacks. I need to learn more with how to control someone and not let him move and play the game like he does. That was an unbelievable performance, and I think, to top it all off, he did it to Robert Whittaker. He went out there and schooled Robert Whittaker, which is unbelievable. Kamaru Usman suggests UFC book massive Ilia Topuria versus Conor McGregor bout in Spain Stadium next. Kamaru Usman recently shared his thoughts on Ilia Topuria's impressive knockout win over Max Holloway and suggested that the UFC take full advantage of his star power. He noted that El Matador has surged in popularity and believes it's the perfect moment for the promotion to book him against Conor McGregor next. During the latest episode of Pound for Pound, Kamaru told co-host Henry Cejudo that instead of giving the next contender in line a title shot, the UFC should consider booking the biggest fight possible for El Matador. Kamaru mentioned that the promotion should push Topuria to greater heights by booking him in a lightweight bout against McGregor to headline the first event in Spain at a stadium. Topuria is delivering. So to send him to the moon right now, why not give him Conor at 155 pounds? Why not give him Conor, a stadium in Spain? He becomes the next Conor McGregor.